Welcome to the Life Outside podcast. My name is Cam Bostock, and on this episode, I chat to Chase Tucker, better known as Chase Mountains Online. You might know Chase from his YouTube channel with over 200,000 subscribers, where he teaches you how to hike better, overcome pain, and learn your body in ways you never imagined. Chase is a seasoned adventurer, mountaineer, and thru hiker with over a decade of experience training and rehabilitating hikers to move freely and pain-free in the mountains. Chase shares stories from his adventures, including experiencing a major earthquake whilst on the side of a 7,000 meter Himalayan peak. He gives insights into why you might be experiencing pain on trail and how to overcome it, plus advice on shoe choice, longevity, and mindset. We hope you enjoy. The Life Outside podcast is proudly brought to you by OptiVenture, the first supplement and nutrition company specifically built for hikers and outdoor adventurers. I co-founded OptiVenture alongside my adventure buddy Hirsch back in 2023. There simply wasn't a product on the market that gave outdoorsy folk like you and me a convenient and comprehensive solution to micronutrition on trail. So we spent 2 years alongside a team of nutritionists, dietitians, and supplement scientists and formulated it ourselves. OptiVenture Core, our all-in-one supplement system, is available now, and you can find detailed ingredient breakdowns and information on the science and research behind our products at optiventure.co. There'll be a link in the podcast description, and you can use code LIFEOUTSIDE at checkout to get 10% off. All right, let's get into today's episode. Chase, how you going, mate? Thank you so much for joining the podcast.
Welcome. Thanks for the invite. I'm super excited to chat to you.
Of course, man. We've known each other for a little while now. For those who don't know Chase Tucker, Chase Mountains, he's one of the very few people who focus on getting people better at hiking, basically, and ready for the mountains. And you've got a system and a sort of philosophy on training for the kind of stuff that I love that I haven't really seen anywhere else. And yeah, we've been working close together. You've been helping me overcome some challenges with my my body over the last 6 months or so, which has been really, really cool. And dude, I really appreciate all your help. People don't see, I mean, I don't post about injuries or setbacks that often, but I do have them. And I think anyone who's done a lot of hiking, mountaineering, through hiking kind of stuff will know that eventually the body breaks down in different ways. And yeah, I've been confused about my body for a long time, which I'm sure, I mean, you probably, see that all the time with your clients, right? Just things happen when you're out on trail in all these different conditions that you just can't really predict sometimes.
Yeah, you mentioned the breakdown, like things break down, right? So
yeah,
the baseline of the philosophy is that we have evolved to walk long distances, carrying food, fuel with our family, migrating across continents, and we've been doing this for a very long time. And so my idea of restoring that ability is more about restoring the natural ability of the body to do what it's perfectly capable of doing, rather than chasing this kind of extreme fitness, because it's just walking. And so what I like to do is get people to understand what that most likely breakdown point is, to be aware of your own body and to know it really well, and then to know what to do to delay that breakdown point. And so there is a system to it, but it's also a choose your own adventure and a way of discovering your own body and becoming familiar with it again. Because what I see when I talk to people who are hikers who are injured is that they're just slightly confused about the way that their body operates. And I think the pain that people experience, whether it's in the knee or the foot or the hip, is simply a calling to say, hey, like, pay attention. Pull back like your awareness into your own body and give it some attention and love. And it's not something to be fearful of, being injured. It's just your body calling out to you, saying, hey, just sit with me in the present moment for a second and connect. And so this has been kind of this philosophy has been kind of pulled from yoga and implemented into what I do.
Where do you think the disconnect has been? Because I tell people this all the time. Like, we're meant to be in nature. Walking is just sort of a natural ability of humans. We do it really well. But I feel like society as a whole have lost that ability, and people don't get outside as much, and people don't get out into nature as much. And for me, if anyone who's spent a lot of time outside, it's where you feel. It's where I feel most alive, most real, most raw, most comfortable. But for a lot of people, that just isn't something they experience very often. Where do you think we've kind of gone wrong? Is it just part of the human evolution?
That's a huge question. We've done a lot wrong. I think it's mainly, and this has nothing to do with health or fitness. It's mainly that we don't feel safe to do whatever we want to do. We have existential threats from a capitalist society, basically. So, and that could work, but it seems like it's increasingly not working for people. And I think a lot of people are using going outside as an escape to reconnect with nature. And I think we all need that. I have a positive perspective on this, and I think it's going in a good direction. So,
I think I've seen that too. We're trending outside. I think we're trending outside, especially the last few years since COVID. People sort of had that taken away from them. I feel like hiking's surging in popularity, and it's almost like a domino effect, because once you get outside, it's addicting. You feel alive. It's incredible, and you start pushing yourself and challenging yourself, and those kind of things. They sort of add up. Where did adventure start for you? I know you have done a lot of stuff outside. You thru hiked. You've done a lot of mountaineering and spent a lot of time in the mountains and in the backcountry. You're currently living in Barcelona, Spain, but you grew up in Australia, right? Where did it begin?
I grew up in Tassie, and not too far from the start of the Overland Track. And I spent a lot of time up there as a kid, but I think my first adventure was with a couple of guys from school. We were about 17. We climbed a mountain. We ran back to, chasing daylight as the sun was setting. And that was the first big, mountain adrenaline experience, and I just loved it from then. And then I did my best to maintain regular outings as I got older. And at a certain point, I decided that I wanted to spend as much time outside as possible, and I kind of wanted to do something for myself and kind of escape the corporate overlords, live wherever I wanted to live, drive change in people and share what I know, which at the time wasn't much. And live a little bit more freely. And so I found 13 years ago, I started just working with people as a personal trainer. But I was always working with hikers. I had no interest in working for anyone else, because I knew that the ability to walk would be a driving, motivating factor, and I wouldn't have to be the motivational guy, because the motivation to hike without pain and to enjoy yourself is motivation enough.
Yep, I can relate to that for sure. What was it about that first mountain mission in Tassie that sort of sparked your addiction to the outdoors? What was it about being outside, about chasing the light back to the car on the way down, that sort of drew you to keep going back out?
I think it was being with in a fairly foreign environment with a couple of close friends, and being a little bit scared, a little bit out of the comfort zone. And we're always going to be uncomfortable. You're either in your comfort zone and staying put, which eventually becomes uncomfortable, or you're choosing to get outside of your comfort zone and you're uncomfortable. So life is going to be uncomfortable no matter what, but you might as well be uncomfortable and be growing and developing.
And choosing to do it right. It's always better when you make the choice rather than something happens to you. It's
Yeah.
funny as well, like all these moments of uncomfortability in the outdoors are always the memories we look back on most fondly. You know, whenever I talk to another through hiker, the first stories they tell are, the torrential downpour they had to hike 20 miles in, or that time their headlight died and they didn't beat the sun back, or the time they got covered in leeches or ticks. These are the kind of stories that we remember and we look back on, the type 2 fun adventures. And you get that a lot outside, which is it's what draws me back a lot as well, is going into situations where I know it's going to be hard and uncomfortable, and like you said, choosing that over not doing it, and life sort of happening to me.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
sometimes have, the excitement of a trip coming up. If I'm going out, especially if I'm going out on my own, I'll have this inner voice, this inner critic saying, "Oh, you don't need to go out this weekend. Just stay in the city. Go and have a coffee with your girlfriend and go relax and go to the beach or something." So I don't always want to do it, but I push myself because I know that I come back healthier and happier with a deeper sense of being grounded in who I am. And if I leave it too long between trips like that, I really start to feel it in my level of just calm and everyday happiness. So,
Oh, dude, me too. It's for me, it's an everyday thing. If I go a single day without spending sort of an hour or so intentionally outside on a trail somewhere, I feel it within myself. It's just like I start lacking motivation and drive. I just start feeling down. It's as simple as that. And I don't, some people go weeks and months without really leaving their office or their house, and it's just like we're definitely not built for that. So that's my mission, is to just get people outside, because it's just life changing. It really is. So you started training people. So when did you start doing that? Were you still in Tassie?
no, I was living in Brisbane by this point,
Okay.
and initially I thought, okay, well, I want to do something for myself. I had a background in guiding, and I saw that, when I was guiding people, people would be complaining about their knees or their feet or their back or whatever. And I was like, well, maybe these people just need to do some squats and some push-ups and, move their body a little bit. And that's how it started. And then sure enough, I would encounter more and more complex problems. It's like life just gave me these even more complex cases to work with. And in the beginning, I would just be like, go and see a physio because I'm out of my depth, Like we can do some strength work and we can do a little bit of stretching and stuff. But eventually it got to the point where it's like, okay, they did all the physio and like nothing had really changed. And I just felt, okay, if this person's paying for me to help them, then I need to do some research. And so I started researching and I started experimenting with stuff. And also I had my own problems as well, like a really complex. I have a very complex body that I've worked through a lot of issues. And one of the things I got stuck on was thinking that flexibility is what I needed. I just needed to be more mobile and more flexible. And I made a big mistake with that because I ended up in a lot of pain. And it's weird because people will go to my channel and they see the kind of stuff that I do, mainly bodyweight movement, looks kind of yoga-y, slow, careful movement. There's some stretching involved. And so they may make that same mistake thinking, oh, I just need to spend more time in this particular position to get more flexible. But I've kind of gone in the opposite direction with that and just relaxing and letting the muscle do what it wants to do and find a balanced center point.
That's something that I've noticed working through your programs and working sort of one-on-one with you over the last 6 months is it's more than just being flexible and mobile. There's some of the movements you've put me through, just, stuff that would never cross my mind to do, working in all kinds of weird positions and working the entire chain of the body. Just because I have pain in my foot doesn't mean it's necessarily a foot issue. It could have something to do with everything that's interconnected. And it's stuff that I've never thought about. I mean, I came to you because I've had like chronic knee issues ever since I thru hiked Te Aroa in New Zealand in 2023, and just like patella quad tendonitis. And I tried all the mobility, I tried the strengthening stuff, and I'd watched your YouTube channel for a long time. For those who don't know, Chase has a massive YouTube channel, like 200,000 plus subscribers, just teaching people how to hike better. I remember just watching like a ton of your barefoot content and just random stuff back in the day. But yeah, you've helped me move better in ways that I just could have never done by myself. And no one else is really teaching the way you do that I've seen either. How did that philosophy evolve? I mean, you've been doing this for a long time now, helping people move better. And I know you've had mentors along the way, and like you said, you've done so much research, but it's just evolved exponentially as you've gone along.
It's been influenced by a couple of things, and maybe these are just assumptions that I have about hikers. One of them being hikers don't like to go to the gym. so that has
Accurate.
that may or may not be true, but I see that a lot, and the kind of people I work with usually just want to do a little bit of work at home with their own body, and I think that's a great way to do it. So it's been informed by that. It's also been informed by yoga, because I love yoga, and yoga is the thing that holds me together. But it's not, I don't actually practice physical yoga at all. It's the other 7 limbs of yoga that that are kind of important to me, because yoga is so much more than a physical practice. It's also been informed by very much by the East and by Qigong and Tai Chi, both of which I've like taken things that I love about them and brought them into a more straightforward Western strength and conditioning viewpoint. And the last piece of the puzzle that is the most kind of recent one is more of this anatomy, emotion, structural balance stuff, where there's a high focus on center of mass, awareness of where the weight is going through the foot, and the base of support, which is the foot itself. And that has come from Gary Ward, who's a genius.
Yeah, I mean, I consider you a genius. So if you're saying someone else is a bloody genius, they must be pretty smart. It's always bigger fish, isn't there?
There's very few things of these that I've figured out. Very few. They've all been tools that have been passed down to me from other teachers and experiments.
Yeah, you must have done a lot of experimenting on yourself over the years. I mean, I know you've done quite a few big adventures yourself. You're not someone who just teach people to hike better. You put it into practice and you go out and you do some big stuff. What were some of your like bigger expeditions that you went on? From those early days living in Tasmania, moving across to the mainland, and then eventually going international. You spent time in Nepal and Europe and done a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, the biggest expeditions were always Nepal, just because they take so long with the altitude. The longest amount of time I was in Nepal was when I climbed Ama Dablam, I think. And that was 34 days. That was during the earthquake in 2018. So that was fun.
Unreal. Yeah, I mean, we've chatted a bit about Ama Dablam before, because I went to Nepal also in 2023 with the lofty goal of summiting Ama Dablam. Unfortunately, I failed, literally due to that knee issue that I've been working you with, which is kind of ironic. I'd love to hear a bit more about that expedition, though. For those who have no idea what Ama Dablam is, for those who do, if you know, give us some context.
It is kind of a triangular shaped mountain, very lofty.
Beautiful, beautiful mountain.
It has a hanging glacier right on the top, which is referred to as the Dablam, the mother's, which in the local language is like the mother's necklace. And so it's like a big chunk of ice kind of hanging on the top of the mountain. And you walk past it on the way to Everest. So it's very emblematic and very important to the people of the area. And it's just a mountain. It's like the Matterhorn. Like, it's just the mountain that just calls to you. And so I'd been kind of luckily invited on a private trip by 10 guys actually from Brisbane, who were all pretty experienced in the mountains, and one of them being very experienced, which is Michael Groom. For those who have read any of the Everest, certainly an Australian legend, a Himalayan legend, and I got invited on a trip with him, trip of a lifetime, to climb this mountain, and we attempted it.
How did it go? I want to hear about it.
It went interestingly because we decided not to have a lot of support. We had one Sherpa, and there was no one else on the mountain at the time. And so
Amada Blum is a highly, highly technical mountain, just so people know.
Yeah. And there's some tricky vertical sections on it. And we'd done a lot of preparation with what we could in Brisbane, just climbing Mount Barney and some of the local mountains, Mount Maroon, doing some multi-pitch climbs, the longest ridges we could find in Brisbane. Because, it involves a couple of really long days, some heavy pack carries to stock all the camps, and sections of what would normally be vertical climbing, but it ends up being fixed rope climbing, which is not my favorite thing to do in the world at all. But you kind of have to do it unless you're going to take up your own gear and climb it traditionally, which would be our mission for sure.
Yeah.
That was really my last experience with fixed rope climbing, because I particularly didn't enjoy the mess of rope that was up there. I told myself that I would bring down some rope, but I didn't. I was so wrecked and from that adventure that there's no possible way that I could have done that. But it's a mess of fixed rope up there, and it's just not nice. Like, it doesn't give you this I'm in a wild place kind of atmosphere.
Mm-hmm. It just adds to the stress as well, right? Like, I remember I didn't make it too far up Amma, but I climbed a couple of other peaks, Island Peak and Leboche in the region, and same thing on those mountains, the intertwining of ropes that had just been fixed on top of each other season on season and not been cleaned. And it's just like exactly what you said. It doesn't really feel like you're in a true wilderness situation. I finished I've only been to Nepal once. I did one expedition, but I finished that trip like I'm probably not going to do this kind of mountaineering again, because I felt so stressed all the time, and I hated that feeling. The other thing I hated at altitude was that I just couldn't access my strength and my fitness like I can at sea level. I'm sure you've experienced sort of a similar thing as well.
Weirdly, I didn't. I was in such good shape. I physically it was not bothering me. I mean, it was a big day and everything, but what stopped us was the weather and the earthquake, of course, which kind of threw a spanner in the works.
Crazy. The earthquake hit while you were on the mountain?
Yeah, so we were descending from Camp 1, I think.
Far out.
Was it? Oh, no, it was between Camp 2 and Camp 1, I think, if I remember correctly. And it was really foggy. I was one of the earlier ones coming down. I was with one other directly behind me, and I was listening to music, and I was coming down the mountain, heavy pack, and I just felt really dizzy all of a sudden. It was like the ridge was moving left to right, either side of me by like a meter. And I was like, oh, wow. I thought I had sudden onset cerebral edema. I was like, well, this is not good. Took my headphones out, and then I heard it, which was the avalanche coming down underneath the Blum.
Wow.
And I was so confused. I was like, is the avalanche causing the ground to move, or is the ground moving causing... I had no idea. All I did, I just got down on my hands and knees, turned around to my friend was behind me, and we just were frozen in shock, not sure what to do. And eventually the earthquake stopped, everything calmed down, but immediately there was this dense fog that covered all of our visibility. And we were waiting for the rest of our team to come down. And so we sat on our packs and waited in this dense fog thinking all of our friends are dead.
Wow.
And they miraculously appeared out of the fog at some point, and we were just so happy. It was amazing.
That's a surreal experience, an earthquake on the way down from a big mountain. There's a high camp right up there near the De Blam, right? I'm hoping there wasn't people up
No,
there under the
there was no
avalanche.
one up. There was no one up there.
Okay,
We were the
you
highest
guys were
ones
the
up.
only ones.
Yeah.
Okay.
So is to answer your question. That's definitely one of the spicier situations that I've been in. But ironically, I've been much more scared than that, and it's usually just in stuff in the Pyrenees.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So what brought you to Spain? You live in Barcelona now. You've been there for quite a few years, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I've lived here for 8 years. I've always been a traveler, and I've always been like called to go and live in different places and different cultures. And my partner, she wanted to move here and study, and I had been here in the past, and I was like, yeah, it's a nice city, it's got some mountains nearby, and so we moved. And doing the work that I do, working with people online, I can do it anywhere. And Barcelona is an amazing city. I was lucky enough to meet a couple of really great friends and a really good mentor, and I can walk out my door and be on the trails in 5 minutes. So it really suits me.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, I was over in Barcelona a couple of months ago, so we got to meet up in person, which was unreal, and did a session in person, and I feel like you cured like issues I've been having for years just by one session with you in person. It was magical. We met up just before I walked the Camino de Santiago across your home country now, which was just an incredible experience. I know you've done quite a bit of hiking in Spain, especially in the Pyrenees. You through hiked the Pyrenees, right? At some point on the GR10 or 11.
I did the GR11, which is the one in Spain, and then
Yep.
I came back the next year and did the HRP, the Haute Route Pyrenees, which is basically you follow the border of Spain and France from Mediterranean to Atlantic. And I'm a big proponent of the Pyrenees. They're amazing.
Yeah.
I think they're just big enough for it to be exciting, but not so big that you'd never have to worry about glaciers. Of course, we get some good storms and plenty of snow cover as we get into winter, but it's quite a safe mountain range, but also exciting enough, to keep it interesting.
Yeah, I've seen you out there mountaineering, trail running, hiking. Obviously, you've walked the length of the mountain range a couple of times by the sounds of it. My only experience in the Pyrenees is walking on a road over a very low section of it from Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port on the Camino de Santiago. But yeah, obviously a very beautiful mountain range, and one hopefully I can get a tour from you on at some point.
Yeah, next time you come, we'll go and do something. I do want to hike the Camino de Santiago as well. I've been thinking about kind of doing it from my house, like literally just walking out my door and finding my way there.
The traditional way, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Whether I could squeeze out enough time away from work to do that, probably not, but at some point I'll do it because I think I like the idea of pilgrimages.
Yeah, it's different to spending a month in the wilderness or climbing a 7,000 meter peak for sure, but really special experience. One I'm glad I got to do for sure.
On the last recent trip that I did with Benji and Kareem, a couple of good mates of mine, we went to Austria and Germany, and I found that we would just go so hard and try and punch out so many miles that we barely talked. So it was just like sleep, eat, hike, repeat, and we didn't actually have that much time. The only time that we had to chat was just at lunch when we were just shoveling food in our faces, and then we would set up the tent and we would be cooking dinner and then wrecked and then just go to sleep. And that's because we're trying to do big miles. We're trying to cover a lot of terrain, and I like slowing down the pace because it gives you more time to absorb where you are.
Yeah, that's something I think I'm still learning to do, because I'm the same. I love pushing myself and just sort of sending it, but you do, you do miss some things for sure. And slowing it down it can be a whole different experience, especially when you're with other people. And that's something the Camino for me was, one of the reasons it was so special was because we weren't doing 14 hours of hiking every day like I typically do on a through hike. We'd walk 6 to 8 hours, and we'd spend a ton of time at cafes and in towns and just meeting people. And it was so different for me. But, I just fell in love with the experience. It was unreal. And Spain's just a cool country. I can see why you've sort of settled down there. Do you think you'll be there long term, or?
It's a contentious question. Maybe. I will
Maybe.
always, the part of my heart will always be here for sure. I don't think that I will raise kids here, just because I have other options. But I'll always have a connection to Spain.
I'd love to chat to you about footwear for hikers, because it's one of the things I get asked the most about, and it's something that you've obviously talked a lot about on your channel and plays a big part in, I think, just overall sort of hiking efficiency and can contribute to injuries and that kind of stuff. I don't know if you'll be happy to hear this, but I think I've switched to ultras from Hokas since I last talked to you, which has been crazy. I've realized how tight and how squished my toes were in Hokas now that I have a more wider shoe. And I've really enjoyed the zero drop. I think that's something that you're a big proponent of. I mean, you love the barefoot shoes and trying to keep it as minimal as possible, right?
I think that's a good direction to head in. So we can start from Hokas, right? And then we can work down. In a Hoka, you have a lot of cushion. You have a fairly traditional toe box. It's a little more narrow, which is meant to give you, I guess, control. And you have arch support, and you have an elevated heel in most of the models. That lends itself to a very comfortable experience. And that can be a trap, because in my opinion, what ends up happening is that the foot is not really doing a lot of the work, and it's not feeling the ground. So we have 200,000 mechanoreceptors in the bottom of the foot that are constantly reading the
Can I
ground.
ask what a mechanoreceptor is?
It's essentially like a nerve ending that is evolved to kind of collect information and send it up into the brain to tell you where you are in space, whether you need to lean left, forward, back, right. It's like how you read the environment if you were blind, if your eyes are closed. It's telling you what is around you and where you are relative to the ground. So that information is being sent up to the brain. And the brain is making decisions about where to place the foot and when to swing, when to shift the center of mass left to right in order to keep this process of walking happening. Because walking is just a series of falls, controlled falls, one after the other. So that information is super important. We're also getting information through the eyes about where we are in space. So that's why the vestibular system is hugely responsible for our perception of our ability to balance. It's much more difficult to balance with your eyes closed. That's an easy way to think about that. And so when we have a very cushioned shoe, we don't tend to... It's like the foot gets dumb and lazy, frankly.
Mm.
And then there is other things in the body that need to make up for that. So your calves might end up doing a lot of work. Your knees might end up doing a lot of work. Your hip might be compensating in a way to make up for the lack of extension in the big toe, for example. So it's a restrictive kind of environment that leads itself to other structures having to take up the slack. That's the way that I think about it. It's taking performance away from the incredible piece of machinery that is a human foot.
Yeah, it is a very complex part of the body, and I think I'm learning that more and more as I, talk talk to you and put things into practice. So what shoes like would you recommend? Like if someone was wearing, say, a big stack, highly cushioned shoe like a Hoka or any other range of popular shoes that are out there, what's the journey that you would recommend someone take?
Well, the journey begins with your kids. Get your kids in barefoot shoes, because for many people the damage is done and it takes a long time to undo that. So
I remember watching one of your YouTube videos where you were like, yeah, if you're 30 years old, you've spent 25, 30 years potentially wearing the wrong shoes, and the body has learnt and adapted to that shoe and being constricted and having the non-natural sort of freedom that your feet are supposed to have, and so it's going to take just as long to sort of undo that, right? And so it's probably a long process.
I mean, there's shortcuts. You know this. We found a shortcut with you, which is moving the bones very specifically in the foot. And that's a lot of the work that I do all day, just looking at bones in feet and figuring out ways to get the bones to move. But to get back to your question, get outside in anything that you can. That's the most important thing. Don't let any of this advice stop you from going out and enjoying yourself. If you have the time and are interested in your body and you don't mind being a little bit uncomfortable, then you can start to minimize the support that you have in the shoe. And a good way to do that is an Ultra. Ultras have, for the most part, been a zero drop shoe that were very wide toe box, quite flexible, and they have some cushion. So it's like a nice little segue into a more barefoot shoe. But it's not like the goal isn't to be hiking only ever in barefoot shoes. There's a shoe for every trip. And so there's no need to be dogmatic about it. You can choose the footwear based off what the demands of the trip are. And sometimes you're going to need a waterproof shoe. Sometimes you'll need something that's a lot more rigid, sturdy. Like let's say if we were to go to Tassie, into the southwest, into Tasmania, where it's like dense, wet jungle, I would probably wear like a leather boot that's waterproof, and it would probably be a barefoot shoe, a barefoot boot, because that's just how I've taught my foot to move. And I think I would suffer if I went in with a really rigid boot. And I did suffer the other day. So we should talk about this as well. There can be a negative side effect from improving your foot function. And that is that you struggle to go back to rigid footwear. So the approach shoe, which is very rigid, very narrow toe box, it's basically a climbing boot. If a climbing shoe had a baby with an alpine mountaineering boot, that's an approach shoe, right? And so that level of rigidity can be difficult for you to get used to again. I experienced this the other day, ended up rolling my ankle. And so it's such an individual thing. And this is why I like teaching people about their bodies, because it shouldn't be a mystery why you're in pain. Like there's a relatively logical reason for it. If you're seeing the body from a postural center of gravity standpoint, center of mass and base of support standpoint, and that requires often very detailed assessment and some trial and error, because I have no idea most of the time what people's issue is. I can have a sense for, I have a hunch for it, and certain things I've seen frequently enough to know that my hunch is like, I'm super confident that we're going to be able to solve this problem for people. But in many cases, therapists, doctors, anyone who works with a human body, if we're honest with ourselves, we're always just guessing. And some of those guesses can be correct and some of them aren't correct. And that's the gamble that you take when you begin to work with someone. It's a gamble that you took. Luckily, it paid off.
Yeah, well, it has. It's interesting because I've always thought like I've known my body really well. Like I've done that much hiking and I've done all kinds of different sports and that kind of stuff. But I think I've realized that like I kind of just know which parts of my body hurt sometimes, and I kind of know how to get around it and kind of compensate to get over it. I actually don't know why things are hurting, and that's something that I've learned with you. There's always this deeper issue, and I think I've gotten better at sort of realizing that just because my knee hurts doesn't mean this and this. It could be something completely different. It could be the shoe. It could be my foot. It could be my posture, my center of gravity. When you see someone for the first time that comes to you with a mystery pain or illness, what's your process to basically get to that root cause? You say you're guessing half the time, but I remember when we first sort of started working together, there was a lot of stuff that you went through with me to just figure out where my posture was at, what my gait looked like, kind of all these different things.
There's a lot of analysis going on in the background as I'm just seeing people move, listening to them talk, observing them basically. But the main thing that we do is we see if the arch can change shape in the foot. So everyone should have the ability to pronate and supinate the foot. That's the first thing. And so if someone comes in with a problem and they can't pronate and supinate the foot to any degree at all, which is very common, then we need to teach them how to do that, because everything is upstream of pronation, with the exception of the extension in the toe. But basically everything is upstream of pronation, meaning that any problem that you have in the body can be linked back to whether the bones in the foot can supinate and pronate and move the arch. So we always look at that. We also look at the ability to comfortably flex the spine. And we do that in order to see if there's any scoliosis. I think of the spine as almost a mirror of the feet. There's 26 bones in the spine, there's 26 bones on the foot, and it's almost like the spine is reacting to the way that the feet are. And in that way, a foot problem can be a neck problem, which I believe is my case. We also check the ability of the person to tolerate carbon dioxide. And we do that for like altitude reasons, but also to gauge their level of resting tension in the mind and their ability to tolerate stress. So if someone is spending more time in a sympathetic state, meaning they're in fight or flight rather than rest and digest primarily, we have to take that into account, because anything we move forward with to help that person might be rejected by them if they're in a state where they're overly protective, if their nervous system is being overly protective, which in many cases is happening. So they're the three main things we check. But there's other things if they seem obvious.
Are you mostly assessing people like online, right? And so you can, I'm sure it's better in person, but you can sort of see these things even through a screen and work out a way to hopefully come to some sort of solution.
I'm actually much better online. I'm useless in person.
Yeah, right.
Because that's the vast majority of the practice that I've had. This is the key, though. When I'm in person with you, I can only see you from one angle. Whereas if I have you on a call, we can set a phone up and a laptop, and all of a sudden I can see you from two angles. I've just doubled the amount of the data that I can get, because I can see you from two different planes of movement. And it makes it actually a lot easier to determine what's going on. And my process of determining what is going on is simply looking at which joints are moving and which ones aren't. And so it's simply a process of analyzing movement and nothing else.
For those people who are sitting at home listening, thinking to themselves, okay, I've got a pain here, an injury here. What's some easy things they can do to sort of assess their situation and start heading in the right direction as far as rehabilitating?
Broadly, the easiest, or maybe not the easiest, but probably the most beneficial thing you can do is lie on the ground, put on a timer for 10 minutes, close your eyes, and bring your attention to your breath. And as you are keeping some attention on your breath, scan through your body from the tip of your toes, one leg at a time, left leg, right leg, scan through your hip, through your belly, through your chest, and just observe and send literally relaxing thoughts to those areas as you're becoming aware of them, all the way down to the fingers, all the way through the head, neck, and jaw, because we need to be better at relaxing. We need to be able to, at will, consciously soften and relax resting tension in the body. If someone does that and they do it genuinely well, they might start to feel tingling in the hands or the fingers or the feet, because that's where we have the highest concentration of sensory nerves. And often you start to feel a buzzing. And the goal then is to send that buzzing to every surface of the body and to coat the body in this awareness. We can't change what we're not aware of. And so if you've got a dark spot, a dark corner of the body that you just, your brain and your nervous system can't even feel anything in there, then that lack of awareness is going to be impacting other joints in the body. And so you may have a knee problem, but your inability to move back into your hip, or the inability to move down into the foot to pronate the arch, might actually be the thing that's causing the knee problem. And the only way that we're going to know is by slowing down and spending some time paying attention to your body. We are being constantly pulled and distracted out into this greater reality with all kinds of different things that are shiny and want to take our precious attention away from us. And I think a pain experience like this is simply your body like, hey, come on, remember me. And I'm upset because I've been through this and had like an extraordinarily long, painful experience with my body, a difficult relationship with my body. And I look back now and read through my journals, and I'd be saying, oh, I've got this pain in my sacroiliac joint, this pain in my foot, pain in my knee. And the weird thing is I don't even remember that. I can't remember having that pain. So there's something called the fading effect bias, which is our ability to forget negative situations from the past is much greater. So we can easily forget negative things. And I see this all the time when I do the final review call of our 90-day program with people. I say, well, okay, in the first call you said that you had this issue with the front of your shin. How are we tracking on that? I'm like, I don't remember having that. So it happens all the time. And I was like, I had to eventually look it up and reach out to other coaches and ask people. And they're like, yeah, it's fading effect bias. The brain's ability to forget. The classic example is childbirth. The brain's not going to want to clearly remember
blocks
that
it out.
Yeah.
I mean, geez, I relate to that so much with just the distractions of life, like you're talking about, and stress levels rising. You do feel that tension all through the body. We think of stress as just this, the mind being run down and held up. But for me, when I really think about it, it kind of just projects all through my body in different ways, whether it's tightness or injuries popping up or all these kinds of things. And I hadn't really ever done much of the breath work and mindfulness stuff until working with you, and I did find it to be really powerful to just sort of ground myself and actually think about all the different parts of my body, and that's something I had never done before. And it's really useful when I'm out on trail as well to be more mindful of all the little mechanisms working at once, rather than just sort of putting one foot in front of the other and falling controlled over and over again, like you put it. It's there's so much more to it.
Yeah. There is a flip side to that coin, is people who overthink everything. And so we have to be quite careful when we take people in as, we're showing you, we're educating you, you're learning your body through this experience, but don't try and change your gait. Don't try and impact the way that you walk, because that happens so quickly. There's no conceivable way that you're going to be able to do that. There has to be a movement pattern in the brain. So I had to add that caveat to people.
Yeah. I mean, there's people out there that probably relate more to the overthinking side of things. What about people who are listening who are like, well, I don't have any injuries, but that's something that terrifies me. I mean, it's something that terrifies me as someone who has had injuries as well, is like getting injured again. What are like some daily practices or some simple things that people can implement into their routine that's going to help them, hopefully have some longevity with being injury free and just hike better and move better?
First thing is, don't be scared of injuring yourself, because just the thought of the fear of hurting yourself can lead into a pain experience. Not only that sounds like we're talking about manifestation or something. We're not. We're talking about the relationship between fear and pain in the central nervous system. It's something called the pain-fear cycle, which is where the fear of pain itself can create a pain experience. That pain creates more fear. The fear creates more pain, and it's a downward cycle. So don't be fearful. There's a lot of people, you may, including me probably, if you go back and look at my old stuff, where I'm like, you should do this so you don't get injured. I think I made a mistake there, because the fear of injuring yourself can be. We're not here to create more fear. Put it that way.
Yeah.
The second thing is, find something that you enjoy that is a physical practice of movement. That might be yoga. It might be Tai Chi, Qigong kind of thing. It might be Pilates. It might be grabbing a pair of dumbbells and throwing them around. It doesn't have to be anything specific. It just has to be you spending some time on your body. Yeah. So we have a system that basically improves the functioning of the joints and is a self-education program. But what I've found is that most people, they need to be in pain first before they do this, because it seems so different and so strange that, and it's difficult to do. You know what it's like. You've been through this stuff. It is so challenging. So I've kind of just accepted that probably there's probably 2 people out of 100 that have gone through the system that have been pain-free. Pain is a great motivating factor. So for the other people that aren't in pain, be grateful. and be grateful for that, and just do whatever you like to do with your body.
I have to bring myself down to earth sometimes when I am pain free, and like try and feel like I tend to forget, like you were saying before, forget the times where I was injured and really limited, and I've got to just be really grateful. Like right now I'm in the midst of training for a big FKT on my local through hike, and like I feel so good. I feel so strong and fit, and like nothing seeming to go wrong, which is like unusual. But I'm just trying to enjoy it. I'm just trying to enjoy the process of moving freely and feeling really good, and not being fearful.
Yeah. So like, if I'm to coach you right now, I would say pick one thing that you can do from the high flow method that will keep this relationship and this conversation flowing between you and your body, your feet and your hips, because I see you moving now. You can go and do whatever you want for training, but just have one practice for a while, for 6 weeks. You have access to all of our material, and just do the high flow method daily practice, 30-minute one, most days, or pick a couple of things. Yeah. We have a 5-minute routines, we have 15, 10, 20-minute routines. We have longer ones. Find something that calls out to you, just so you can keep this map clear. You can think about it like body mapping. We want to stay clear. We want to eliminate all of those dark spots where you can't voluntarily move into, and you want to keep your awareness of them, keep your ability of them. And this is not coming from a place of fear either, but it's just that we haven't been doing this long enough to know how long the results will stick. And the best thing that you can do is continue to rotate your spine with your feet on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a feeling that it will stay for a while, but if it doesn't, you know where I am.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure I'll be back at some point once I've absolutely destroyed myself. I can't help myself. I just want to go hurt in the bush. It's just like my weird sadistic hobby. But we'll see. We'll see how long I can keep it up. It's a good reminder though, because I do get complacent when I do feel good, and like those small things that have helped me get me to where I am kind of fall away because I'm like, oh, I'm good now. But I know you're a big proponent of longevity and trying to try to get people to be able to do this into the 50s, 60s, 70s and beyond. And do you see people out there that are moving really well into their later years? What have those people done right that have gotten to that point?
I think dancers move the best. It could be any type of dance, but when I see older folks who have maintained some kind of practice of dance, they always move a lot better. And variety is important. So yeah, it seems strange to say that, but dance on your own. This is probably one of the best therapeutic practices that I sometimes encourage people to do when they're running up against a lot of chronic tension. So just pick a song and dance it out. Keep your feet on the floor. That's the only rule. Move everything else any way you want to. If you close your eyes and do that for a good song, you will probably feel a lot more relaxed and shake. This is I think you asked me a question earlier on the podcast. It's like, what are we missing in our modern day society? We're missing community, we're missing celebration and ritual. So one of these rituals might be, you could think about it like, just dancing around a fire in a safe way. Dancing, shouting, screaming, letting the energy pass through the system and escape. Grief can be debilitating physically. So if you go to a funeral in outside of a Western country, you might see people of all genders wailing and screaming and beating their chests and physically moving their bodies a lot because they're transmuting grief so it doesn't get stuck in them. I see a lot of people that struggle with the method. I start wondering about, is there an emotional attachment to this? And in a lot of cases there has been, where certain memories have come up. We've been in a certain position, someone will just start crying. I'll be like, it's okay, it's fine, just let it come out. That's trauma leaving the body. It's the pain coming out. I never expected to get into that kind of work, and it's not something I focus on, but if it's got to come out, it comes out. You can't keep it in.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many layers to existence, isn't there? And it's all bloody interconnected: mind, body, spirit, soul.
Yeah, that's the joy in what I do, like having hard cases and having hard conversations, and it's hard for them to keep it up when they're not. Everyone else is getting such good results, but they're like, oh, what's wrong with me? Why isn't it working? Like, you had a very smooth experience with this. And for anyone that's thinking about coming in, it may not be as smooth, but that's a gamble. But the DIFO method really is about establishing a deeper relationship with oneself, understanding the mechanisms that cause pain, to be able to delay that likely pain experience, but also on a much more important level, to be able to self-heal and catch yourself before you start being overly critical to yourself.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I have seen quite a few older folk on trail, through hiking big trails, and it makes a lot of sense. You're kind of going through all these different things that lead to longevity, because people that are old, like the common themes are they've just moved their whole life, whether it's dancing or they've just walked or hiked, and it's just like they've never been sedentary. They've always kept their body active, and they've sort of kept that vigor because of it. But also, like, I feel like older folk on trail are always the most honest super emotive, super enthusiastic, and there's something about maybe it's just the older generation that are more open and know themselves a bit better compared to us younger folk that have been stuck in our phones since we've been bloody kids. And I don't know, I'm always so inspired by older folk that I see on trail, and I'm like, damn, if I'm hiking at 60, 70, 80, that is, the best. That'd be the best thing ever. Like, I remember meeting a 78-year-old on the Pacific Crest Trail last year through hiking the trail. 78 years old, blew my mind, and he was just so happy, and yeah, he was so enthusiastic to be there. And I'm like, damn, if I can be half as active as this guy at 78, I've lived a good life.
Yeah. And how could you not? Like, if you're out there with all these young whippersnappers around you, and you're the wise old sage, it would be cool, for sure.
Yeah, super cool. Do you have any big bucket list adventures that you want to tick off in the future?
Have
you got anything coming up?
I'm kind of working my way down the list of the Pyrenees mountains, but this is by accident. So I climbed an Etto, the highest mountain in the Pyrenees, a while back, just because a friend invited me. And then I climbed the second highest mountain a couple of weeks after that with a friend that wanted to come out with me. And now I'm organising another trip, and I was like, well, I might as well work my way down the list. Let's do the third highest mountain. So next weekend, we're going to go do Monte Perdido, which is the third highest mountain. So I might just work my way down the list. But other than that,
I mean, it's on your doorstep, right?
Yeah. But there's nothing.
Okay, so nothing big.
And maybe this is to my detriment, but I'm so focused on getting better at what I do that me going out in the mountains and pushing myself isn't really that much of a priority. It's taken a back seat. Maybe that's not a good thing. But I get in enough adventures to keep me kind of satiated and balanced. Yeah, I think most of the time.
How can people work with you if they've resonated with what you've shared over the last hour? Give us a little pitch for the Hike Flow method, and what kind of people, for starters, maybe would be the people that you're looking to help?
The people that I work with best generally have a bit of time, and they really want it. So that's usually people in the older category, sort of 45 and above. They don't have young kids to worry about. They have a little bit more time on their hands, and that lends itself pretty well to making progress. So that's one kind of the archetype that we work with. And all of the work that we do is quite slow and soft in the beginning. The other archetype is someone like you, who's a little bit younger. They're kind of had a bit of a mystery pain for a while, have tried some things already, tried the standard stuff. If that hasn't worked, it's okay. We just need to go a level deeper. And for anyone who wants to learn, we have a free school. School is basically, you could think about it like a Facebook group without the ads, where I'm basically writing my method and writing the book in there. I'm going to write a book, Hiker's Guide to the Human Body. And so each one of those is like a chapter of like, okay, I need to understand my foot and my hip, my knee, and how all this works. So that's a nice way for people to just, get an overview of the system, practice it a little bit. And I'm going to kind of drip feed little bits in to people who are like interested. For those who are at the point where they're like, I need to get this solved now, and this makes sense to me, and I feel that this would work. And crucially, if you are open to it working and you haven't had too many negative experiences in the past, then you can book myself or Brandon in for an assessment, and we take it from there. So that's how to get started if you would like to do it.
Unreal. I'm going to leave all your links below, and you've got the Cam Bostock stamp of approval because no, you've legitimately helped me out a ton, man. I really, really appreciated our time working together, and I've literally been pain free over the last few months. I'm realizing that I've been taking it for granted a lot because I'm thinking back to some of the moments I've had over the last few years, but it's been really cool, dude. Really, really cool. And thanks again for joining me today, man. Appreciate your time. And hopefully we'll catch up in person soon.
Yeah. Thanks for giving me a chance to talk it out. It's been fun. And I'm very grateful that this went well for you and for me as a byproduct. So thank you for doing the work. Thank you for putting the time and attention into yourself. And yeah, well done.
Of course, mate. I want a tour of the Pyrenees as well next time I'm in Europe, so we'll tee that up.
Yeah, we're going to, if you'd like to join, we are going to do a retreat in the Pyrenees, which will be 2 days doing some bodywork stuff and 2 days actually getting out on a hike. So we'll have a couple of workshops. We'll do some live demos, some one-on-one work with people as examples. Teach you some of the basics and get out and climb for a couple of days. Beautiful spot in the Pyrenees that we have that has like sauna, ice bath, little areas to do yoga. You can have private accommodation. It's way up in the Pyrenees. It's such a relax. I wish I lived there, but I don't. It's a place of a friend of mine, retreat venue. So you can join the free school, and perhaps you can come along and hang out with Cam and I if you choose to come.
That's exciting, dude. What's the vision for Chase Mountains and the Hike Flow method? Like, are you wanting to do more of these in-person retreat style, group style trips where we can see people one-on-one, or is it more just like honing in on the online stuff?
I honestly don't know at this point. I'm kind of torn. I could write a book, start a podcast, do the circuit, promote the method. I don't think it's ever going to be good enough for me to do that. Like, I think there's a part of me that's just like, no, you need to like learn more, understand more. It's not ready yet. And so I don't know when or if that point's going to come, but they're the two options.
You're never going to be bloody satisfied, right? You just want to keep growing it. But I mean, it's obviously super, super valuable and impactful as it is.
The irony is that that's a fruitless endeavor, because we're here. There's got to be some mystery in life, and there are so many ways to solve problems. It would be stupid to think that I could solve every problem, and that would just be my ego. So it's a good question.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. But for now,
unreal.
Putting a lot of time into people individually and refining it. Yeah, it's got to be done.
Dude. Well, thanks again, and thanks everyone for listening to this episode of the Life Outside podcast. If you did enjoy, make sure to follow wherever you are listening and leave us a 5-star review. It is much appreciated. I'll leave all Chase's links below, so go follow him and flick him a message if you're interested in fixing some of those chronic issues or hearing a bit more about what he does. Other than that, I will see you in the next episode. Cheers, guys. Cheers, Chase.
Thanks, mate.